Well, hello there and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined and only joined today by Paul Gorst. How are we, Paul?
Good, very good.
Yeah.
Not on the back of Saturday's trip to Brentford, which we're going to get into. Yeah, the Reds keep rolling on. We said it was going to be a bit of a big day in the title race, didn't it? And
Yeah.
It sort of feels it now.
It was a lovely weekend, wasn't it? It was a really nice weekend all around.
A lot happening.
Yeah, a lot happening. Yeah, it was a really, really good weekend of, they say, the Barclays, don't they?
Yeah, and plenty to cheer about on the opposite side of Stanley Park as well.
Yeah, some happy blues for a change. Sorry we're a touch late to this stream. We were having a very important debate about the best Toy Story films and the most educated Toy Story characters. So,
and you think it was Buzz Lightyear based on his NASA training?
Well, it's NASA training. You don't get in the NASA school or
space
cadets.
Anyone be a spaceman.
And but Woody's wise, isn't he? He's wise beyond his
seen
years.
It all, hasn't he?
Yeah. So, fair play to him. Big fan of Toy Story. Yeah. That's not what you joined us for. You joined us for lots of talk about Liverpool's title charge. Darwin Nunez will dominate this episode, and plenty more decides. We've also got the Champions League coming back as well. But first, a big thank you to our sponsors, NordVPN, who help us do what we do. You know the spiel right now. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred, and our link gives you 4 months. On a 2-year plan, there's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. Thank you, Nord. And thank you to all our lovely listeners, and to those of you that have been emailing me. Got a good handful of them this week, and it's great reading your feedback and your questions, so please keep them coming. joe.rimmer@reachplc.com. I'll go through some of those questions shortly, so if you do want to drop me an email with feedback, thoughts, questions, if you want to ask Ian Doyle whether he still thinks Arsenal are title favourites, please do. Please keep those coming, and I will ask him on a daily basis. We are live on YouTube, so if you've got any questions, you can drop them in the comments there. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us some stars, give us some reviews, give us all the nice things. That's what we want. That's what we like. But yeah, let's start off with some of my emails because they're quite good. Let's start with a very good one from Tony Jones. He listens to lots of Liverpool podcasts. He likes Blood Red. He likes yourself, Paul. He likes Ian. He likes Theo. But he wants to know now, can Ian... and Ian Doyle is not here to answer the question himself, but we'll answer it for him. Are Arsenal title favourites?
Well, it's funny enough, I asked him that on the train back to Brentford. After a full-time whistle at the Emirates, where Arsenal were held to a 2-2 draw with Aston Villa, and he said yes.
Arsenal still title favourites?
Yes, I don't know how sincere he was with that one, or whether he was just sick of us asking him about it every time that Arsenal failed to win. But yeah, it's a strange stance, but nothing out of the ordinary if you deal with Doyley. Yeah, I mean, I just can't see how you can make that assumption based on the fact that obviously Liverpool are 6 points clear with the game in hand, but also Arsenal really struggled to put together the kind of sequence that you'd expect of a challenging team at some stage. You know, normally there's a big win somewhere along the run, and you think, okay, that was a statement win in the title race, or they go and win 7, 8, 9 in a row, whatever it may be. Arsenal yet to do that. I don't think they've won any more than 3 in a row. They've dropped points now in 10 of their 22 games, is it? So it's only half the games that they're not coming away with maximum points in. So for me, Liverpool have to be considered favourites. Nothing we haven't said, well, me and you have said for a couple of months now, really. But yeah, we're where we are at the start of the week. Liverpool 6 points clear of the game in hand, only 2 games further down the road. So yeah, a really good weekend for Liverpool and for Darwin Nunez as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it. I mean, you can say, if it's your opinion, that you still think Arsenal will win the title. That's fair enough. But I don't think you can call them favourites because because the maths says they're not. And you know, we're halfway through the season. How many games? More than halfway through the season now. And you know, as you say, Liverpool have just ticked off 2 quite difficult away games. Got 4 points out of them. Arsenal then played at home and got the same amount of points. So I think for all the talk of easier fixture lists, you know, I was saying to you, wasn't I, before we came in, I think there's one big difference this year than there was last year. And Arsenal did go on. I think that the points totals aren't too dissimilar to where they were last year, but I think there's 2 big factors. One is Man City. And don't get me wrong, Man City could put back together a run and close the gap. I don't think they'll get back into the title race, but I think they could close the gap considerably before the end of the season. But Man City aren't a factor. And the second one is Arsenal had a game at the Emirates against Liverpool at the start of February, which they would go on to win. but having that home advantage in that big game and having the crowd on your side, I think was massive for them. Liverpool obviously at the start of their injury crisis last season sort of dropped away around now, didn't they, when those injuries started to hit? Well, actually they dropped away later, but those injuries started to take their toll, didn't they? It was sort of February, March, April that they really, really hit. So yeah, I mean, I just think the landscape is quite different. And although I think Ian's argument all along has been Arsenal have got more favourable fixtures now, they're not that much more favourable, and Liverpool have got a healthy lead. So for me, Liverpool can look at some big home games against the likes of Arsenal. You know, Liverpool have gone away to Tottenham, haven't they? And they've got Tottenham at home. So they've got games to play at home that are tricky, but they've got home advantage, and we know Anfield can make such a big difference.
Yeah, and I don't think you can base it really on fixture lists. I read something in the Athletic sort of making the similar point to Doyley about Arsenal's fixture list, but
I read that, yeah.
You know, what is it? What is it? Favourable fixture list now in the Premier League? Look at Newcastle absolutely flying, weren't they? And then Bournemouth go and turn them over at St James's Park. Every team in the Premier League now is, with the exception of maybe 3 or 4, they've all got quality players. They're all outspending their rival. They're sort of comparative rivals across Europe. You know, if you look at, say, Bournemouth, probably a good example, Brighton, someone like that. Yeah. If you look at that sort of middling area of the Premier League, I don't think it's ever been as strong as it is at the moment. And if you look at who the teams in similar positions in the Bundesliga, in Serie A, in La Liga, they're not spending anywhere near as much. The squads aren't as strong, and that means that the league overall has got a better sort of spread of quality players. So just looking at things from a fixture list perspective is always difficult because, you know, like you say, any team can put up a fight. So, you know, judging it on that alone is dangerous. I think you have to look at performances, form,
injury lists. I mean,
injury lists, yeah. And Liverpool on that score are doing really good, aren't they? You know, we're not expecting Diogo Jota to feature at Lille as things stand. We'll find out a little bit more with open training at 12:15. But other than him, it's only Joe Gomez who's on the shelf with a hamstring injury. So Liverpool doing really well in that department, which they weren't sort of 12 months ago. And Arsenal, no Saka, no Jesus. Saliba was absent the weekend, wasn't he? I'm not sure what's up with him. So there are a lot of factors to take into consideration, and when you combine them all, I think you have to consider Liverpool favourites. No matter who you support or who you're trying to needle or wind up, whatever it may be, you know, Liverpool have to be considered the favourites for the title after 21 games.
I think as well, there's a school of thought that would suggest that some of those, you know, you talk about those difficult sort of middle of the road Premier League teams, the likes of Bournemouth, who I watched at Newcastle on Saturday and looked absolutely outstanding, really well coached. Brentford, Nottingham Forest, I know Forest are third at the moment, or second.
Second,
and doing really well, but I would still put them as like a middle of the road Premier League team that are well coached. I actually think playing away from home with some of them can be slightly better because they've got to come out a bit more, haven't they?
Yeah.
And for Liverpool, a team who wants to get at them, a team coming onto them a little bit more opens up gaps, doesn't it? So I think that's probably why we've seen Liverpool do quite well away from home this season and then been frustrated at times at home. You know, even look at United. United are a middling Premier League team at the moment, but United played a low block against Liverpool at home. They obviously had decent chances, but away from home, you play them at Old Trafford. They've got to come out and get at you a little bit more, and that's where you can expose them. So, you know, I think Bournemouth, Liverpool's next away game is Bournemouth, isn't it? It's a really tough game, but what I sort of look positively, I think Bournemouth are going to have to come at Liverpool a little bit. And we know how dangerous. You come out Liverpool and those front three can get at you.
They don't need much space, do they, to expose problems and issues. And you're spot on. You know, Liverpool have got the best away record in the Premier League, and a lot of that is probably based around, obviously, them being a top side, but teams have to have a little bit more of a go when they're in front of their own crowd, don't they? So, yeah, Bournemouth will be tough, but will it be any more difficult than Brentford on Saturday, which was another tough game, and we're going to come on to, aren't we? And yeah, everywhere you look now, it's just difficult, isn't it? Yeah, so that's why I just think judging it off a fixture list with your sort of predetermined biases almost, you know, I think that can be dangerous when you're looking at where you might drop points, where you might pick up points. So, I just think Liverpool are in an unbelievably strong position.
Liverpool have got to go away to Aston Villa, but you look at Aston Villa, that it was easy to look at this week, wasn't it, and say Arsenal will win twice, and they won one game, albeit they rode their luck at times against Tottenham, and then 2-0 up against Villa, and they came back, and Villa are a really good team. So I don't think there's any, like you say, any easy games. And again, I've written something this morning because I saw Mikel Arteta talking afterwards about the depth of their squad can't compete with Liverpool's, and I just think that's nonsense. I think he's been there. I think he's been there 6 years now. Arteta, he's been there a long time.
Won the FA Cup 5 years ago now.
Yeah, and they've spent a lot of money in that time. They've got a much bigger net spend than Liverpool. I think they've tried to recruit 3 players as opposed to 5 each summer. They've tried to spend big money on big players, but they spent 60 million on Kai Havertz. If they've got a goal scoring problem, it's of their own making. They can't say that they've got a thin squad because they've had every opportunity to build it. We all know, and our listeners obviously express their opinion that Liverpool don't spend at the rate that a lot of people want them to. But for all that, they've created a squad that is capable of challenging, and even did last season when they were down to their absolute last, that's the bare bones, weren't they? So they still managed to pick up silverware and challenge in all competitions. So I don't think Arsenal have got any excuses. I think this was a massive, massive opportunity for them with Man City slipping away, and they'll kick themselves if they don't close that gap now. I think it's an interesting title race, but I think it's Liverpool's to lose at this point. Another question then along those lines. Michael McVeigh sending an email to all 3 of us. Thank you, Michael, and thank you again for your support. He said he was about bringing his lad to Anfield and said it's night and day since when he went as a kid, which I was talking about in the last pod. But he says, how many more games do you think the Reds need to win the title? I see online something 11 or 12. Interested to hear your opinion rather than what's mathematically possible. It's difficult to say that, really, isn't it?
I was just getting the Premier League table up because this question was coming in. So Liverpool have got 50 points from 21 games. Arsenal obviously 6 behind. Oh no, sorry, Arsenal is still second. Forest level on points with Arsenal. I mean, so how many more points can Arsenal get? Was it 16 games? 16 times 3 is what?
Yeah, asking someone who's terrible at maths. 48 points.
I mean, I think I seen Jamie Carragher's column on Friday in the Telegraph suggested that Arsenal had to win, was it 15 of their final 17 games and draw. And that's asking an awful lot, isn't it? I've seen, is it Phil Blundell who goes on the Anfield Wrap sometimes? He's very across it on this sort of mathematical divvy up, and I think he suggested maybe 11 or 12 wins for Liverpool. I don't know really, because it's just I just can't see Arsenal putting together that kind of sequence that means that you're going to have to go to the well every single week. Yeah. They've drawn 8 of 22 games. That's an awful lot, isn't it? Yeah. They've only lost 2, but 8 draws is a lot, and not that many more you can have in there. If they have another weekend like this one, for example, where they drop points and Liverpool win, you're looking at it there almost thinking, well, are they finally cut adrift? They're sort of just about staying on the coattails, but Liverpool go and win that derby in, 2 or 3 weeks' time, then you really are looking at it thinking the only thing that can stop Liverpool now is themselves and a major collapse, which, let's be fair, hasn't looked like coming, has it? Liverpool's blip was back-to-back draws, either side of a defeat to Tottenham, which sort of coloured it a little bit, but that was in the Carabao Cup and they've got a chance to put it right. So I couldn't really hazard a guess as to the mathematics of it, but certainly they're the one who are in the stronger position, and Arsenal have to be perfect now. I know they've got the bit of a mid-season break coming up now. They're going to Dubai, which people who watch Arsenal a bit closer said how much of a transformation that had on them last season at this point, but it's going to have to, really, if they're going to stay in the title race.
I mean, I think Michael suggested 10, 11 wins. If Liverpool get 10 or 11 wins now, I think Arsenal will be in big trouble because they will be desperate for Liverpool to drop points. And I don't necessarily think it's how many games Liverpool win. It sounds like David Brent. It's when and how they win those games in terms of, if they win the derby, Arsenal will look at that derby match, won't they, and think if Everton can do them a favour. Yeah. If Liverpool win that game, psychologically that will be a blow, won't it? Because Liverpool have been in the opposite position at times, hasn't it, where you've looked at teams with games in hand and gone, they haven't got those points yet. But once you get over the line and get those points, I think that can take its toll on Arsenal. And like you say, I think if Liverpool get through the next couple of months with a healthy lead still intact, it makes the end of the season a lot easier.
I think Arsenal need Everton to beat Liverpool, don't they?
Yeah.
I think even a draw would be disappointing for Liverpool's perspective, but it still takes them 7 clear. And then you're looking at needing a couple of defeats for the team who've only lost once all season, really, haven't they? And even that was a bit of a surprise. So, Liverpool in an unbelievably strong position that will just enable them to have a little bit of breathing room when they go to places like the Etihad in, when is that, a few weeks' time, is it February the 1st?
Yeah.
And that game at Anfield against Arsenal is huge. You know, that could almost be the death knell for all for Arsenal. Liverpool got a really good record, haven't they, against Arsenal at home. Haven't been beaten there since 2012, is it? Yeah. Really, really strong position. And like we sort of suggested it might be, it was a really important weekend of results.
I've got a few more questions all along the topics we were going to talk, so it makes sense. But first of all, Paul Lee said, can you ask Gorsty, is that Napoli restaurant good? Which was Napoli? Not Napoli as in like the city, but Nepali.
Napoli?
Yeah, do you know it? I
don't know what he's referring to.
I don't know what restaurant he's referring to.
Nepalese restaurant?
I don't know.
Can't think of...
I don't know.
Who's this from?
Yeah, from Paul Lee, who's asked, can you, Paul, if he's on YouTube, can you clarify yourself? And who's in goal for cup games?
Well, yeah, I mean, you give Kelleher a run, don't you? I don't think there are any concerns of Kelleher stepping in now when he has to.
Quick one on player recruitment contract awards before we start talking Darwin, because Ben Gary sent in a question of Darwin. This one's from Steve Payne. Are you or any of your colleagues aware if Arnstott has the final say on player recruitments and contract renewals under the regime of Richard Hughes? The topic was debated when Brendan Rodgers was manager and indeed clarified by Klopp during his time at the club. And how's that changed since now Arne's the head coach and not the manager? Understandably, discussions about specific players aren't played out at a press conference because he says very little about what he wants. I think it's a good question. What do you think? I think he'll always have the final say.
I'm not sure he will, to be honest.
The final say?
Yeah, I think he was brought in and the job title was deliberately changed to sort of reflect that. You know, Klopp eventually sort of come to have the lion's share of the say based on the success that he had and the standing that grew within the fan base as a result. So, I mean, Jordan Henderson's contract is a good example of this. You know, I think it was a bit of a strange story that came out when there was hesitancy over giving him a new deal for fans, and there was talk of PSG being interested and maybe Atletico Madrid, and then Slot got asked it, and I think he said it'll be sorted, and he almost said I'll sort it, and then within a fortnight Henderson had signed a new deal. So I think Slot basically went in, Klopp, reading between the lines, and never had this confirmed or anything, but he's almost gone in and said, look, he's my captain, get a new deal in front of him. I don't think Slot has that power or authority at the moment. Maybe he will if he wins the Premier League and the fans come to sort of lionise him in similar terms. But at the moment, it's a very collaborative approach, shall we say, which sounds like, you know, corporate speak, but that seems to be the way it's coming across. And we haven't heard much from Hughes publicly or seen much of him or anything like that. But his say will be just as valued as Slot's. Yeah,
but I'm surely if the manager says, I absolutely don't want that player. I suppose it would work more as a veto than I want this player, go out and get him for me. And Liverpool would say, well, hang on, all of our data says no, don't. I don't think he'd have that sort of power. But surely he'd have the power to say, absolutely not, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah, I imagine he would if he is that steadfast against the decision being made. And you'd hope that would be the case. Maybe it hasn't been in other clubs in certain situations. But, you know, do you think how much say did he have over Federico Chiesa, for example? Obviously, he would have been aware of the player, and you could make a case for him thinking, oh, well, he's an exciting player, but feels like that was driven by Hughes, doesn't it, with his contacts in Italy and his knowledge of Serie A, and you don't need to be a sort of a Serie A aficionado to know that Chiesa is an important player in Italy, but it certainly felt like he was the one driving it, and Slot almost said, okay, well, let's see how we go, and, you know, still waiting for him to really kick into gear, aren't we? So, obviously his input is as valued as anyone else's, but I don't think what he says goes at the moment at Liverpool.
Paul Lee has clarified the Nepalese and Allerton. If you mean Johnson, Paul, the one on Dovedale Road, It is absolutely brilliant. I've been there a couple of times, and
it's just one I don't know. I've never been to this place.
If that's the one he means, it is. It's on Dovedale, and it is really good. And the momos, if you can get them, I think I'm pronouncing that properly. Are really, really good. So yeah, Paul, if your son wants to take you there, let him, because it's very good. I didn't know you came here for your restaurant
culinary recommendations.
Yeah, but there you go. Yeah. Unless have you been to any other Nepalese?
Don't think so. Never been to Nepal.
No, me neither. But right, final question, but was going to be the hot topic of this pod anyway. Ben Gary, thanks again for emailing in. Darwin Nunez. He said, of all the talking points from this weekend's game, I imagine Darwin Nunez will be pretty near the top of the list. So I have a question related to the rest of the season for him. What does he need to do from now on to be able to look back at this season as a success? And related to that, do you guys think that he will manage to bring himself back into Arne Slot's long-term plans, or do you think the writing's on the wall for him no matter what, and he's headed for the exit in the summer? I wouldn't say no matter what, because if he goes on and scores 15 goals between now and the end of the season, that could be a difference. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, Slot got asked on Friday in our separate little breakout by myself and a few colleagues from the Nationals, is Darwin playing for his future now? And Slot, as you'd expect, said no. But he basically highlighted his qualities and said we've got to do better at servicing him a bit more, which I think there's an element of that. Certainly he's not having the chances that were put on a plate for him last season under Klopp, and the structure of the team was very much set up to bring him into those shooting positions, and he scores 18 goals, which is a decent return. Could have got 30 with some that he missed as well. Yeah. And I think there'll always be that element of Darwin Nunez for you. We will spin big chances, and whether you're a fan of him or not, that is just proven to be part of his game. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's do or. I think he can change minds and win over hearts and stuff, but I think he's got to do a lot now. Yeah. And Saturday was a brilliant way to start on the back of what Slot was saying on Friday. 6-yard box, 12 yards out, his 2 goals, taken really well. Confidence for him. I thought he was really good in his interview with Sky through the translator, when he talked about going through a rough patch and he's not going to throw the towel in, he's going to fight to the end and all that sort of stuff. Really interesting and honest and refreshing. But I do think there is an element that we could be seeing the final months of Darwin Nunez's Liverpool career. I think Slot sort of still working out what he wants from his number 9, and the fact that Luis Diaz has probably played there just as much as Nunez has while Jota's been out injured tells you a lot. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe this is the sort of catalyst for him, but we've been here before, haven't we? Forest last season, we said similar things. We've said it when he's went through a little bit of a purple patch around January, February of last year. We certainly said that after the 2 goals against Newcastle, so you're still waiting for him to catch flight 2.5 years into his Liverpool career, and there's a player there, no doubt. I'm just wondering whether it's a player for Liverpool, and I guess we'll find out between now and the end of the season. But Saturday was a good way to start on the back of what Slot said, I guess.
I still think it was a very Darwin Nunez cameo. I mean, if you look at it as a whole, he came on, he almost immediately missed a difficult but decent chance with the header, wasn't he? Yeah. And then the shot. I mean, I think Trent's reaction said it all to the shot from distance, which was frustrating. But I think, to me, the most encouraging part was his positioning for the final goals. I think with Nunez, he can be a bit here, there and everywhere and not in the right places at the right time. And Jota has got the knack, hasn't he, of knowing where to put himself to get on the end of things. Nunez was in those positions, took the goals really well. I just think it'd be interesting to see if he's in the team now against Lille and against Ipswich. And if he is,
give him a run.
Yeah, whether he takes that opportunity, because he needs to provide, I think, a lot more. His link-up play needs to be better. I think he needs to build on this. Unfortunately for Nunez, we've seen these cameos before, haven't we? We've seen that against Newcastle last year. And he's able to do this, but is he able to be consistent? I think there's a good player in there, and I think he could eventually leave Liverpool and go and score 25 goals for a side like Benfica or whoever he moves on to, like a Dortmund. I think he could be good. But it just hasn't really worked out at Liverpool so far. But I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's a definite for him, because if he plays very, very well in the next 6 months, then you'll give Liverpool the decision to make, won't
you? But I was just thinking then, he was suspended for Forest, weren't he? And in all the discourse post-Forest, no one said, Liverpool missed Nunez there.
No.
And I think that's quite telling. Obviously, because Jota, the nature of his impact and the sort of absurdity of it, really, scored in 22 seconds in with your first touch. But there was no sort of lamenting that needless suspension that he gets against Manchester United. And that done my head in, actually. So he just battles into the lip, doesn't he? Gets a yellow card for no reason and suspended for that big game against Forest. And the fans are cheering him.
Yeah.
Don't cheer that. Cheer him going close with the shot or whatever, obviously scoring. So that was a frustrating one. He might have been able to make a difference with 10 minutes to go against Forest in the way he did against Benfica. The way he did against Brentford. Had Slot had him on the bench, but the nature of the goals on Saturday were encouraging. Inside the box, certainly the first one, 6-yard box, just get in there, stick it away. They don't all have to be 91st minute winners, but if he's doing that after half an hour in a game at Anfield, just more of that and just get your numbers up, because he's only scored 4 in the Premier League and half of that were on Saturday, so that's not a good return for the striker at Liverpool and needs to be improved upon.
I think what's frustrated me is when he first arrived, I felt like he was getting in those positions and missing chances. There were ones that somehow went onto the bar or straight at the goalkeeper when you thought, how's he not turned that in? And he was unlucky at times. But I suppose this season, I don't think we've seen the Jota, I was going to say, the Nunez that we saw under Klopp. I think almost the structure of the team and the more patient approach hasn't suited him. But it was interesting to see that Liverpool's like wave after wave of attack on Saturday, him coming in and getting into the right positions. If he can do that more often, then he could benefit, because this team creates a lot of chances, creates a lot of opportunities. And I think his style of play worked well under Klopp. And I've always said I can understand why they bought Nunez, because, like you say, last season was an 18-goal season, but it very easily could have been a 30-goal because of the amount of times that he missed chances. And he was very, very close at times, wasn't he? But this year, what's worried me most is you've not really seen him doing that, and you've not seen him contributing the other way either.
Yeah.
He doesn't link up play very well. He doesn't hold on to the ball well. He looks a bit lost at times, and he goes missing. So, I'd like to see him take up those positions a bit more. And I think this is a really, really. He's lucky because he's got a really, really reasonable week. Jota looks like he's going to be injured for a couple more games, perhaps. And if he is, then he's got Lille and he's got Ipswich at home, which would both cough up enough chances for him to get on the score sheet. So if he can build on this, then that's great, and that's what he needs to do, doesn't he? So,
I think with Nunez, Klopp's system is very much funneled to get him into shooting opportunities, wasn't it? And you look at his compilations from last year, and there's some really good goals in there, but there's some huge misses as well where he's 5-6 yards out, and he just hasn't been getting those sorts of chances this season. The one I always go back to was Chelsea last year in Anfield. Liverpool win 4-1, and Nunez has one of his best ever games for Liverpool. He absolutely terrorised them. Paddy Ashile and possibly Colwell maybe, and they were up the wall. But you come away from it, and Nunez has missed a penalty, and he should have scored that trick. He's hit both posts and he's at the bar. And that just sort of sums him up. Even when he certainly last season anyway, when he has a great game, you're still looking at perhaps one or two that he should have stuck away. And I guess that'll always be him. And I can understand why the groundswell of support is still there for him. But I can also understand why he's getting fewer and fewer allies, because certainly my mind has changed in recent months to think that maybe it is best moving him on in the summer and looking elsewhere for a sort of all singing, all dancing number 9.
Yeah, certainly. I think, but it was great to see, and I do like, he does endear himself, doesn't he, Nunez? He wears his heart in his sleeve. I was looking at his social media over the last couple of days, and last night at about tea time, I don't know whether he'd had a chance to sit down, and he stuck another load of pictures on there, and it was like he was still buzzing, and that's great to see. You could, like you say, the interview afterwards was really honest, and there's a lot of criticism of like, he doesn't speak the language and stuff like that, but these are really young men, and speaking a different language is difficult, and settling in a different country is difficult. I don't necessarily think we should use that as a stick to beat them with.
Certainly when the wrong turn of phrase can get picked up and used and whatever else. But it was really, really good interview. Those quotes, if you've not seen them, go and check them out on our website, or maybe the actual interview with Sky, where it's translated, I think, really honest. And, it was interesting, wasn't it, hearing him sort of accept that he hasn't really been up to standard and what he's going to do to change it. And hopefully this is the catalyst for it. But like I say, we've been here before. Yeah,
we certainly have. Let's talk about another player who hasn't featured a great deal this season that you've spoke to afterwards in the mix zone. And as somebody who, just like Nunez, is desperate to succeed at Liverpool, I don't think there's many players in the squad that'd be more desperate to succeed, and that's Harvey Elliott. I think going into the season, yourself, Doyley, everyone really thought that he would be somebody that would really suit the slot style. He did well in pre-season, didn't he? I know he's had the injury, hasn't really happened for him, but was Saturday an indication of the way it could go for him going forward? He was able to unpick that tough Brentford defence, wasn't he, and get into the areas that we know he can do.
Yeah, he played really well, didn't he, when he come on? Obviously, he has a hand in the first goal with a cute little ball to Alexander-Arnold, and then gets the direct assist for the second. And I thought, I was surprised why he wasn't turned to, certainly in the Tottenham game the other week, in the Carabao Cup, when Liverpool was struggling, and you're looking to maybe get him minutes somewhere. That seemed like it was crying out for him, and maybe he'll get an opportunity against Lille tomorrow, and maybe even in the second leg. But yeah, it was an encouraging cameo. I spoke to him obviously on Saturday, like you say, and I think he did sort of speak about his frustrations with not playing, and he called it a friendly chat with Slot, almost knocking on his door, old school, and demanding why he's not getting his minutes. And I think there is a little bit of a frustration there that hasn't been happening, probably more than he's letting on. And I can understand it really, because it looked like, certainly in pre-season, he looked like one of the sharpest players, and looked like he was going to compete with Szoboszlai for that number 10 position. Two very different, profiles. Elliott's very, subtle and creative and sleight of foot, whereas Szoboszlai is these sort of run all over you.
Szoboszlai, by the way, on
Saturday. He's tireless. Becoming really important, isn't he, for the way that they like to play, goes wide when Alexander goes in field and stuff. But yeah, with Elliott, I think he felt like he put a little bit of a marker down and just gave a little bit of a reminder. And he was also asked about these interesting links to Dortmund and Brighton, and he said, Liverpool's my club, Liverpool's my team, he's going to fight for his place. And it was quite strong rebuttal of those reports. So good on him. Just hope that he gets a little bit more of a look in now, because like we've seen on Saturday, he can make a difference. He's a very good impact sub, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's got, I've just said I thought Szoboszlai was excellent, and I do. And he went close to that shot from distance, had a shot in his left foot. He didn't really get much purchase on, but his work rate is tireless. His physicality is I think is important to this Liverpool team. But Elliott offers that little bit of guile, doesn't he? And I don't necessarily think we see Szoboszlai playing the type of pass that put Trent in behind for the goal, which I think Elliott can do. He can get onto the edge of the box, and not only can he shoot from distance that we've seen before, and I think that gives teams something to think about. He can play those little cute passes. So again, I think this could be a key week for him. You look at Lille or Ipswich and think, even if he doesn't start, he can get in on those games and hopefully influence those games. And I really want him to succeed, Elliott, because like you say, I know you spoke to him a fair few times, but he's an honest lad. He's a hard worker, and he's someone that really cares about the club.
Yeah.
He's really likeable, and I really want him to succeed. So hopefully this is a start of something. And I think Slot is the type of manager that seems to take a little bit of a while to win, to be won over. Yeah. And I think Elliott has been unlucky with that injury, and Szoboszlai's got in there in his absence. So
yeah.
Hopefully the second half of the season can be a bit more.
He was massively loved by Klopp, though, wasn't he? You read the piece yesterday that it did, and I think it worked out to. I think he made 53 appearances in total last year in Klopp's final season. His minutes were 2,800, I think, and for him to sort of to reach that now, you'd have to play something silly like the next 28 games for Liverpool, and if they go all the way in every competition, they'll only have 33 games left to play. So it shows you how valued he was last season under Klopp, and how unfortunate he's been this season with A, injury, and B, the form of players in his position while he's been out injured. But
also, the talk of selling him. He's 21.
Yeah, I mean, 125 games or something for Liverpool.
I wouldn't be thinking of selling him just for any reason. You know what? I'd be more favourable going and send him out on loan somewhere without the obligation to buy if it's really about game time. But certainly not selling him. He's 21 years old. And he's already got great experience. He's got great ability. I just think there's some ways to go for him at Liverpool yet before we work out whether he's going to stay there for long term or not. But 21 with the appearances he's had and the experience he's got, I'd be thinking he could be a big part of Liverpool's future.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to hazard a guess as to what his value would be.
That's the thing. I don't think you get great value for Harvey Elliott.
Because sort of what he brings to the team isn't always the most eye-catching or obvious, other than the odd goal he might score and whatever else. So, yeah, it's difficult. I mean, he'd be more valuable to Liverpool in the squad, wouldn't he, rather than selling him for X amount of money and then trying to bring him in. And I just hopefully that this is a good sort of starting base for him to push on now and put the injury hit first few months of Slot's reign behind them.
A couple more things before we wrap up and you can go and watch open training. First of all, Slot's tactic substitutions. I mean, I always think of Klopp as like a momentum manager who didn't really alter games a great deal with his substitutions. Slot seems to be like almost the opposite. Every single time he seems to make a substitution, he seems to affect matches. I mean, there's probably a bit of luck to that, but he's done it again, hasn't he? This week is case in point. 4
points, yeah. I mean, there's a bit of luck to it, but there's also the fact that he's got a really good squad, so he knows that the players he's bringing on are still going to be quality against tiring teams. But it's more than just sort of digging into a bag and picking out a squad number, isn't it? You've got to sort of see how the flow of the game is going, what qualities you've got on your bench to use to impact the game and the flow of it and stuff. And Jota, Tsimikas and Jota, absolutely perfect introduction on Tuesday night, and obviously that's not going to happen every game. But Nunez, the match winner off the bench as well on Saturday. So, yeah, and these things for sort of onlookers and watchers and fans, managers get loads of credit, don't they, when they do stuff like that, when subs change the game. And I think you'd have to say, his subs last week have earned Liverpool 4 points.
Yeah, and it's not just his subs, is it? He's able to make tweaks. The amount of times we've said Liverpool have come out second half playing better. I think Fulham at home is one of his best games so far in terms of in-game tweaks to keep Liverpool on the front foot and battling the way they did in that game. Yeah. And again, it just felt like Saturday could have gone the other way. I think it got to the point like 75 minutes where I thought Brentford was starting to come into it and Liverpool was starting to run out of ideas, but he managed to make changes and reassert the pressure, and eventually it was told. So I think in-game wise, he's been very, very impressive. And yeah, I mean, I'm loving Slot, to be honest. I think is just all round. I like the way he communicates. I like the way. Yeah, I think again, you look at Arsenal and you look at they seem to be feeling the pressure, and Arteta seems to feel the pressure.
It's emotional, isn't it, every time?
Yeah, and Slot goes the other way, and he's been booked a number of times on the sidelines already, but seems to be able to shed that emotion post-match with his players. Seems to be able to, I mean, there was a great thing that you put in Moments Missed about him sort of giving the players a volley and then turning around and smiling, almost as if it was just a bit of a psychological ploy.
It was almost like a bit of an act. Yeah, he was having a conversation with Van Dijk and Szoboszlai and Alexander-Arnold as Liverpool went to take a free kick early on, only like 11 minutes, and he's giving them both barrels for whatever the situation was, and then he just turns and he just flashes a little grin at his assistant, a little wink as if to say, just keeping him on the toes there. He's been really good, and you always see him sort of post-match, milling about the stadium, doing his duties, and he's always very calm, always calm. Smile on his face, and of course that's due to the results and stuff, but it does look like he doesn't let it massively affect him either way, and that could be a big thing going further down the line, because Arsenal on the flip side always seem to be tetchy and frustrated and sort of making it known in press conferences and stuff. Mikel Arteta, when they haven't won, and Liverpool are massively the other way at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the run-in, that could be massive. I almost feel like Klopp's emotion was great when you needed to come from behind, or you needed a big moment or a big occasion, and it got Liverpool through many games. It was a huge asset to them, and I think Arteta's got a little bit of that. You can see Arsenal when they've won big games, they've gone into it with emotions. He's got the crowd on side. Slot's altogether a different beast, isn't he? And I think his calm nature will kind of help Liverpool now they're leading, keep themselves grounded, keep themselves from panicking when they do drop points. And we saw that, the United, like you say, two drawn games. It was almost people were pressing the panic button a little bit, but he's kept them calm, and they've come through this period, and now they go into a slightly more favourable couple of games. They will be a lot calmer. So I think he's really shown himself to be a very, very accomplished manager in the early stages of his Liverpool career. So that was really encouraging. We'll move on to Lille. One quick question. Chicken Cave 10, who has asked us, after seeing Salah's post with Darwin on the way back, I want to ask, do Liverpool always travel by plane to away games in London? I think regularly they do, not every single time, but it is a regular thing now, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems to be. They obviously had issues flying back from Tottenham a couple of weeks back, didn't they? And then they had to divert to Birmingham, and that was a bit of a hairy few hours for them, ferrying players back to training ground at in the middle of the night. But yeah, I think generally they do tend to fly to games in London and further afield.
Yeah, I don't like that clubs have to use flights so often, but I think that the fixture schedule now, and if you want, just from a purely football point of view, if you want your players to be as fresh as possible, they can't play Saturday afternoon, drive back, get back by late Saturday night, sleep Sunday, get prepared for Lille on Tuesday. It's just club schedules are just so intense now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, one of the games recently, me and Doyle were driving back, and I dropped him off, and I was on the East Lancs Road, and I seen the team bus, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, that's obviously just dropped the players off at the.
They've got to make their way over.
And then they've got to drive. Some of them live in Cheshire, and another 40 odd minutes plus. So it's not really sustainable or healthy, is it, when you're looking to get well rested bunch of players with games in another three days or whatever.
Cool. Right, Lille. I mean, it's a bit of a weird game for Liverpool, this, isn't it? They can get through this game. They're qualified, but they'd virtually be guaranteed top, won't they? I think if they win this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a month now since Liverpool. Well, over a month since Liverpool have played in the Champions League. Over 5 weeks, actually. I think that Girona game was the 10th of December, wasn't it? So almost forgotten about the lay of the land with the Champions League. Yeah, still not sure whether I like this new group stage or I don't. One thing it does do is it means that you don't have to massively focus on other teams' results, because you're almost playing them in your own little bubble until the very end, and then you have to sort of look at who's around you. But Liverpool, with the way they've been going, means that Liverpool haven't had to have a look at how Inter are getting on, or Barcelona, so they just know if they keep winning, they are staying top. And how that shakes up in the knockout draw, surely it's got to be favourable in some way. But I guess it's just maybe an opportunity to rest one or two without going too far the other way. Just players you might need the minutes, and keep enough big guns in reserve for Saturday against Ipswich.
If Liverpool win tomorrow and Barcelona drop points, then they are guaranteed top of the table. Barcelona away at Benfica, and then play Atalanta at home in their final game. Liverpool obviously play Lille at home and then away at PSV.
But Lille are in the top 8, aren't they?
Yeah. So
obviously beat Real Madrid earlier this season as well. So they're having a really strong campaign, aren't they, in Europe themselves? So
yeah, but I think it's massive, isn't it? Liverpool can win this game, and I think they will. I think some people are suggesting change team. I don't think you'll see a change team.
Not massively.
You'll see Slot rotate for this. I think he will take this very seriously and try and get through.
And the prize money as well for winning the Champions League games, 2 million ish. Yeah. So Liverpool can't really turn their nose up at that.
And of course, they'll have a player who Liverpool know all about. He's second top scorer in the Champions League this season, Jonathan David. He's someone they looked at, isn't he, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, when they got Jota, Jonathan David was almost on a bit of a 3-man shortlist with Ismail Sarr and Diogo Jota. So, Jota might miss it. Jonathan David will be looking to add to his haul, won't he? Canadian international, is he?
Yeah, born in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And then started at Ghent and played for Lille. He's done well at Lille, scored 82 goals so for them. And looks a good player. I'm sure he'll probably move on at the end of the season. So it'd be interesting to see where he does end up. But I think every time I've seen him, he's looked quite good. So it'd be very interesting.
So, on for Van Dijk and Canate, you'd expect to keep tabs on. Yeah, I think it'll be difficult. You know, like I say, they're doing really well in that Champions League and beat Real Madrid at home earlier this season. A little bit of a turnover of staff, haven't they? You know, the manager went, obviously lost Lenny Yoro to Manchester United, but I can't say loads about them at the moment. I have to do me preview reading today.
Maybe. Let's pick our teams and give a score prediction for this one. Are you making any big changes?
I mean, there's a shout for Elliott, isn't there? In that's a Bosley role. Ipswich at home looks favourable, but I think Liverpool can't take any chances now with this Premier League title challenge. So back four, maybe Robertson in for Tsimikas. That might be the only one. Midfield, Elliott for Zaboslai, I'll go with. Just as a way of
team,
just doing the old team. Yeah. He'll get you going in a minute. Nunez instead of Diaz.
Yeah.
So what's that? 3 changes?
Yeah, I think it kind of go along with that. Do you know what? I might keep Tsimikas in and switch out Trent and give Conor Bradley a run out.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
And then like you, I'd put Elliott in for Szoboszlai. I think just the sheer effort that lad puts in during games. I mean, I think it's become like a fixture to see him looking ragged at the end of the game and you know, just looking like he's absolutely ran himself into the ground. So I would give him a breather and put Elliott in, who I think has earned it, and Nunez as well. And I'd like to see some more of Chiesa, who was a really encouraging cameo, wasn't it? It was good to see him, and you know, obviously played his part in the third goal.
He did, yeah. It's you just about building up his fitness and so on now. And I said maybe like a month ago, it's not really about him now getting his fitness up. I thought he'd have to play really just to give Mo Salah a rest, but hasn't really had a chance to do so. And Salah looking a little bit below his usual incredible standards in the last sort of 3 or 4 games. So hopefully a return to home comforts tomorrow for him and gets back on the goal trail, and Chiesa maybe gets half an hour, all being well.
Give us a score prediction.
Yeah, like I say, I don't really know too much about Lille, but Liverpool at Anfield and Champions League, you'd always fancy them, don't you? So I'll go with a 2-0 win.
Yeah, I think 2-0 feels about right, doesn't it? It feels very slot, home control type win.
Bologna-esque.
Someone's still asking, still a possibility, Jonathan David. I guess if you've been on the shortlist, you might not
to sign him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 5 years ago now, so a lot has probably changed. Well, certainly within the people who make the decisions at Anfield.
Yeah. And I think as well, he's 5 years older, isn't he?
And until all the players move on in that forward line, I can't see them adding to it. So I guess that a lot revolves around what happens with Chiesa specifically, and maybe Darwin Nunez as well.
He is out of contract in the summer.
Oh, okay.
David. So that might be a possibility. You never know. And obviously, he's done well this year. So, yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you for all your questions, your thoughts, your feedback. Again, if you would like to send us, yes, he's on a free. He's out of contract in the summer, Jonathan David. If you'd like to drop us an email with any thoughts or questions we're recording Thursday this week rather than Friday for the Blood Red Pod. Have we got Liverpool.com on this week, Ian? Wednesday, Liverpool.com are recording if you'd like to listen to them. But yeah, if you've got any thoughts or questions for Thursday's pod, drop me an email, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com, and we will talk to you then. Thanks very much. Ta-ra.